Running late. I had a meeting earlier on, and then I forgot the whiteboard, and I was in two minds as to whether to drive back home to pick it up, and so I thought I didn't want to be later than I already was, so I'll come without it, inshallah. I was saying to one brother, it's part of my body, so it's a bit strange not having it behind me actually, but inshallah we'll do what we can. Today's subject for me is the most important, if not the most important subject. It is a very critical subject. We're talking about the proof of the Qur'an. Last week we discussed about the proof of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the proof of the Creator. And that's the key thing. Last week we talked about the proof of a Creator. We used the word God, Allah, but these things are terms that we subsequently use. All we should really say is that there is a Creator. And once we come to that recognition, we then realize something, that actually anyone can come to this conclusion. It's not the case that somehow we Muslims have some sort of divine right to this premise of being able to intellectually acknowledge that there is a Creator, because this concept is for all of humanity, that every single human being, man or woman, is able to sit back, reflect about life, and then say, there must be a Creator behind this. So every religion can then say, we are right. Do you know why? Because we can prove that there is a Creator. And that's why that's only half of the story, to acknowledge that there is a Creator. What is this Creator? Who is this Creator? What does He want from us? What is the message that we have to implement? And that becomes the second part of the discussion. And that only comes through the authentication of the message itself. So inshallah that's the subject of today. Because I do recall once upon a time there was an atheist who had a debate with a friend of mine about the proof of God. And after my friend convinced him that there was a Creator, this man then embraced Christianity. He became a Christian and then went to study the Bible. So the point being that intellectually proving something is that there is a Creator. And many religions believe that there is a Creator. So that isn't actually the argument within itself. That's just to establish the premise for us as Muslims. That humanity and mankind, when they want to come to belief, they must have an evidence for it, an intellectual evidence. That's the point that we wanted to pass. So inshallah today is a very important subject, and inshallah hopefully you enjoy it as much as I enjoy doing this subject. But before we start, two things as always. One is, any questions from the week, any issues that people want to raise, anything major that brothers and sisters want to just raise as a question or comment, and we can move forward.
Yeah, obviously when we work and love to work with non-Muslims, we have a lot of issues with Islam generally, about what is God, and it's almost, I was in a conversation with another Muslim, so I didn't realize this other Muslim was an experience. Yeah? Now, the thing is like, it's a word you can use like any proof. Yeah? You just accuse someone of something, it's like saying, it's a word without proof. So how should we, in our interaction in our dawah, manage this situation, this word when it comes? Because what I'm having is, because in the media what's happening with certain, there are, for example, there's a scholar in Yemen, it was this guy that the question is like, this guy's CDs are all over the screen, having many hits. Yeah? Now the question is, now in public, this is one person who is they're being labelled as an extremist. How can we ourselves manage this conversation when somebody accuses us because we hold up to Islam?
Yeah, no, so it's a very big question. When you started the question, the first thing that came to mind was the ayah of the Qur'an. And I'll come to the ayah of the Qur'an in a second, but 20 years ago, or 30 years ago, if I said, mashallah, brother Abdullah, he's gay, people would say what? That he's someone who's jovial, someone who's happy. Because that's what the word means. Someone who's jovial, someone who's happy, someone who has positive sentiments, oozing positiveness. But if you use the word today, it has a very different meaning. It's linked to sexual orientation. 20 years ago, it had no connection to sexual orientation. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Qur'an, He says this to the believers. يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لَا تَقُولُوا رَائِنَا وَقُولُوا انظُرْنَا وَاسْمَعُوا لِلْكَافِرِينَ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to the believers, and do not say ra'ina, rather say unzurna. And the reason for this is the word ra'ina had a meaning which was common amongst the Arabs. But a certain section of the community, the Yahud, started to use the word ra'ina in order to insult Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So they actually changed the meaning of the word from a meaning which was a general meaning, which was used in everyday life, to a meaning which then became an insult. It's like the word 15 years ago, if you use the word wicked, it was something nasty, something evil. But you meet the youth of today, that's wicked. You say, oh, astaghfirullah. No, Dad, I mean it's really, really cool. So they changed the meaning of the word. And once we recognize another that says in the Qur'an, do not say ra'ina, say unzurna, meaning use this word instead. The first thing we need to ask, the word extremist, this word and its meaning, who has given that meaning? Can you imagine 1400 years ago, Umar ibn al-Khattab, and we know his character, very tough character. And on the other side you have Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, very, very calm, very warm, by comparison, very gentle. You can't imagine Abu Bakr as-Siddiq turning to Umar saying, you're an extremist. And Umar turning to Abu Bakr saying, but you're a modernist. Yeah, you're a compromiser. You take Islam easy. They never had this kind of terminology. So the question we first need to ask, these terminologies such as extremism, terrorism, fundamentalism, who is using this terminology and for what purpose? So firstly, it's not the Muslims using this terminology, it's the Western governments using this terminology. For what purpose? To reinforce a division amongst the Muslims. That they could then say, these people, they're outcasts, and you Muslims must consider them as outcasts because why? They hold extreme views. And what criteria are they using to determine that's an extreme view? Are they themselves also referring to the Qur'an and Sunnah? Gordon Brown, Allah in Surah At-Tawbah, he says, see, they're extremists. Where? How could they start to use these terms to label Muslims as such? We know we have differences. And we know we have opinions that we may disagree with. Even strongly we may disagree with them. But that doesn't mean we start labeling each other in terminology which is simply used to divide us. So I would never call my brother an extremist or a terrorist, because don't forget now, if you put Anwar al-Awlaki to one side, Maulana Maududi, Sayyid Qutb, if any masjid, if any bookstore are selling books by these authors, and these authors are considered to be extremists by the Western government, then what's left? What is the only books you're going to be having inside the Islamic bookshop? Which one would you have? In the Shade of the Qur'an by Sheikh Brown. What books will be acceptable? Because frankly speaking, if they want to ban a book, the book they would ban is what? The Qur'an. That's what they would want to ban. So I think on the one hand we've got to take a step back and say, hold on a minute, these terminologies are terminologies we Muslims would never use. And we need to go on the front foot and ask and challenge and say, why do you define these people as extremists? Why? If people are defending their land, and give them the analogy, as I said to one of my colleagues at work, who was made a joke about the issue of, I think it was Israel Independence Day. He goes, are you going to celebrate it? He made it as a joke. I said, look, I don't find it very fine. Let me ask you, if somebody occupied your house, what would you do? He goes, I'd make sure I get it back. I said, why do you know the people of Palestine are right? He goes, you have a point. So who's the extremist? The one who wants his property back, or the one who refuses to give it back? Who's the extremist? So it's all about how you present the discussion to people to make them appreciate. In Pakistan, you can't imagine in Pakistan 10 years ago that there would be bombings daily, whether in Peshawar, whether in Islamabad, or whether in Karachi. Now it's a daily occurrence. Who's the extremist? Because these elements have always been there in Pakistan. So who's the extremist? Is it the American invasion into Pakistan? Or is it the so-called Taliban, who actually the Americans have supported during the war between Afghanistan and the Russians? So we find that they're very inconsistent in their use of terminology. And you can always show these inconsistencies. So what I would say is that, look, this term you're using, I reject completely. Because I'm not sure what criteria you're using to say whether something's extremist or not. Which criteria are you using? Are you using your values? Well, according to your values, actually everyone and anyone can be an extremist. So even Gordon Brown, even Tony Blair, they are extremists. Those people